Hello.
Hello. How lovely to be with both of you.
So what I wanted to say to you, first of all, can you believe that you and I have known each other for now 30 years, more than 30 years? Do you remember when
Very
we
long
first
time.
met?
Of course I do. I remember that first, it was the callback I had in London at the Prince Edward Theatre. Got on the stage, I'd rehearsed with other people prior to meeting with Elaine. And then when they said, Elaine Page, and then, okay, she came up on stage. And I remember you said something to the extent of, because you were doing the show at the time, and you
Right.
said, oh, my legs, bit sore, my legs. And I said, don't worry, doll, I'll move you around the stage. And you just looked at me like, what? And that was it. And we hit it off. And from that point on, you gave me the break and the start of my career, which is now 34 years in, 13, 14 West End shows, 2 on Broadway, TV shows, albums, you name it. You know how I feel about that. I don't have to, but I do. I gush.
Well, you've done a lot. I mean, and for me, it's been fascinating, Bernadette. You can imagine to find this young man, pluck him out of nowhere, as it were, and then for you to star alongside me in Anything Goes, and then to be able to watch your career evolve and blossom. It's been a treat for me, I have to tell you. When did you first kind of know that performing and being in this industry was something that you wanted to do? Was there a light bulb moment for you?
Going back to even when I was 3 or 4 years old, my mom and dad, when we lived in Glasgow, Scotland, my mom and dad used to have a lot of parties in the 60s and 70s. And I was always the entertainment. And I would stand with a wooden spoon, a very particular wooden spoon. So they should have known then. It was a particular wooden spoon that I would sing a song called Millie Molly Mandy, which was by a guy named Glyn Poole. I used to finish school and I'd get on the bus. One of the neighbors would be on the bus and they'd say, John, where are you going? And I'd say, going to see my mum. And they'd make sure I got to the next stop. And then I would be handed over to another neighbor who would then make sure I got to my mom's record store. My mom would put me on the counter. People would come in and ask me to sing the top 5 hits. And I would sing them on top of the record counter. And it was always a Jimmy Osmond song.
Oh, of course.
You remember Millie Molly, whatever you called it? Do you remember that song?
Millie Molly Mandy, sweet as sugar candy, pretty little eyes of blue. Everybody would be, if they only could be, walking out with you.
Oh.
Wishing on a Monday when I see you Sunday that you'll find it's true. Millie Molly Mandy, sweet as sugar candy, I'm in love with you.
Oh,
Well done. Lovely, lovely. Remembered every word. How marvellous.
I'll be on my next album.
So listen, tell me, you were just mentioning before about I just saw a Great Dane walk past there just now. Can you tell us a bit about that? What's that's all about? Is that your dog?
No. We have 2 friends that have been staying with us since lockdown started and the whole COVID thing began. And because of that, we have 3 dogs. We have a Jack Russell called Captain Jack. We have a little mix called Dixie. And we have a Cocker Spaniel called Harris. And we then adopted 2 of those dogs are adopted, but we then adopted into our family along with Clayton and James, the Great Dane and the Boxer, who are the Great Dane's called Kylo Ren after the Star Wars villain. And the Boxer is called Coda after a bear at Disney. So yeah, they've all got and they're all one big happy family now.
That's great. They all get on okay.
There was a bit of an adjustment because the Great Dane thinks he's a lap dog.
Right. Oh.
And he's
Jack
2
Russell
years.
thinks he's a Great Dane.
Correct. And Dixie, who is a little kind of cross between, I think she's a cross between a Yorkie and a Chihuahua, but she's more kind of Yorkie, but she's a bigger Yorkie. And she is 3, but the Great Dane is 2. So he thinks he's a puppy, but tries to play with her and would bat her around the room. And she wasn't having it.
No.
She was not having it.
But not having it.
Terriers will not have that. Terriers will not. Yeah.
I've been a long supporter from the days going back to coming into your dressing room, Elaine, when you had Tugger.
Yeah.
And that was my first introduction that you could have a dog and still have the career and, you know, integrate it into your life and take them with you.
Yeah.
So from Miss Moneypenny, who was one of my first dogs, and then we've always adopted. It's always good to save a dog because sometimes not only are you saving the dog, but sometimes the dog saves you.
All the time. Oh, look who's here, Rosalie. Because people can see all the rescues that might be near where they live. And they can go right there and get one of those lovely dogs that we're going to show them. It's
been medically proven that when you have a dog, your blood pressure comes down, your heart rate comes down. You actually, you're not as aggressive as you might think, you know, as you normally would be. So it's a very good calming effect. If you want to think of the dog as being like a vodka soda, it's something like a little tipple in the evening. You sit it on your lap and you can pet it and stroke it and it makes you feel really calm.
I've never heard of that simile ever before.
Who is this cute little dog?
This is Dixie. When I went to a convention in Utah, one of the Comic Cons, they were doing a shelter was doing a rescue where they had all the puppies there. And I sat in the middle of them, and Dixie came up to me, sat in my lap, and she looked at me and she said, "I want to come home with you because I want to live in Palm Springs." So Dixie is she wore a white shirt and a black pair of trousers. She's a Mormon, and we accepted her like we accept everybody.
John, do you want to talk about the shelter you're going to introduce, and then we'll cut right to the video, and everyone can see all the lovely dogs and cats that are at this shelter.
I'd like to introduce everybody to a shelter that has been it's been doing and helping animals since 1926. They're based in Gloucestershire, and every year they rehome over 650 unwanted and abandoned cats and dogs and small animals. They also take a lot of dogs from the Gloucestershire Constabulary. And in addition to rehoming dogs, they also help owners who no longer can look after their animals, and they rehome them. So on behalf of Broadway Barks and West End WOOFS, I would like to introduce you to the Cheltenham Animal Shelter.
Oh, woof, woof.
Woof, woof.